I'll tell you how I was given 24 strokes of the cane in church when I was just 12 years old. You see, this story I'm going to tell, if anybody watches it, those who understand my story, those who are very close to me, then would, try to remember, but some would be some would be shocked that I still remember such a story. I was part of a church in Sapele, Delta State. So the pastor of that church is a father to my very good friend. And I guess he'll be watching this video. If he sees this video, he's an incredible friend of mine. We've known each other for ages. We're teenagers. Even when things went the way it went with the church, he was very close to me, close to my mom. So it's someone I actually do value extremely. And I remember him saying at some point that his parents actually regret some of the things that happened at that time. And I don't really blame the parent, because the father was just a calm guy who just led church. And the mom, the wife of the pastor, was very, very close to my mother as well. So I wouldn't blame them. But there was a guy who was very influential in the church at the time. He was he was very influential because he was kind of the biggest donor in the church. And he had a very weird behavior. He never liked me at all. He never liked me. I never liked a lot of people around me, and many kids were really scared of him because of his of his approach, or some of the things, the way he went in church and the way he does things. And many kids within church was really scared of him because of his persona. He didn't like kids, maybe because he didn't have kids of his own, but he didn't really like it. The only kids he actually liked were the kids of the pastor. Okay, those are the ones where those were the ones he was very close to. He would be playful with them, and I was someone from a poor home, and usually when you are somebody from a poor home, you're usually not. I would say you're not a popular child, because people want to play with the children of the rich. They'll say, "Oh, Ajabota children," they will play with them, and those of us who are not from rich home, those who rich home, for those who from poor homes, were not played with. Those were the ones. These are the ones that will receive cane for being stubborn. The ones that will receive all the latches of his facing suspension, or to kneel down. Most of the time, rich men children are not dealt with in such manner. So, but the irony of this situation is that he was actually close to my dad. My dad was close to him. So some of the things I did at home, some, as a young boy, you'll be stubborn sometimes. My dad would always relay all that and complain and say, "Oh, this," but nobody understood the kind of personality that I had at the time. I had a lot of mental health issues that I'm beginning to discover at my old age, and that stemmed from young age and stuff like that. And these are some of the things that influenced some of the things that I was doing at the time. But beyond that, I was just secondary school, still learning how to write properly and write letters and stuff like that. And there was this young lady who was the same similar age as mine. So, and I liked her. Now, what the rationale of the elders at the time was that you're a young boy, you're 12 years old, what are you doing falling in love with somebody else? But the thing is, when it comes to love, you cannot rationalize why a young boy will be falling in love. You cannot rationalize it. You might say, "Oh, he's too young." But if you go to 5 years old, you find out that you see they come back home and say, "My girlfriend is in school. I'm going to see my girlfriend." And even when I was young, I remember that when I was in nursery school, there was this girl the mom used to pick her up. My mom was close to the mom, and I would cry if I don't go with the girl, because I really liked her then. I want to sit with her, close to her. And there was something, we were young, we were children. There was nothing sexual. You just had feelings, just affection for each other. You get? And it happens to children too. It doesn't happen to only adults. I think we need to understand that. And when your child presents with things like, oh, I've got a girlfriend I got a girlfriend in school, instead of you shouting, you should seize it as an opportunity to educate. Are you listening? Seize it as an opportunity to educate, instead of screaming and shouting and beating and telling them to shut up, because you deprive them of education. So back to my story. There was this lady in church that I liked. I think she was about 12 years old then. I was about 12 years old. And I was just learning how to write then. I was like, okay, let me write a love letter to her. Let me write a love letter. So I wrote this love letter. I was writing this love letter. I was a slow learner. I didn't read early. I didn't read early, and I didn't have proper guidance and proper tutelage. Because I went to a very poor school, extremely poor. There were times where we could not have, it was just a public school. Even with that, things were difficult. Wake up early in the morning to go and fetch water before we go to school, sleep late to wake up early. So I wasn't that smart, as a young boy in school. But things changed afterwards. But so when I learned how to read, at that, at that almost that time, 12 years. That's when I began to read. You can see I was a slow learner. So that letter was my first letter, or my first write-up. So I was going to express my love for somebody after my uncle had taught me how to read. So I was going to express my love to the one I was falling in love with, 12 years old. There was nothing sexual. It was just somebody who was having affection for the opposite sex, which is normal for anyone. Even a young child, even a child of 2, 3, 4 develops such feelings if you study children very well. So I had that kind of feeling. I said, okay, let me write a love letter, because I was very fascinated by the girl. Because when we get to church, we will play together. I was 12 years old, already in secondary school, JSS 1. So I wrote the letter. When I wrote the letter, somehow I was able to give her the letter. Somebody gave her the letter. Young people who just give it somebody, go and give this letter. We'll give her the letter. And while she was reading the letter, I think somebody else saw the letter. And they read the letter. It was just simple and affection. The letter, I love you. Seeing you in church makes me smile. Blah, 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 blah. And then that letter was taken. Somebody saw the letter. I said, okay, take it. I'll go take it to church. And this is what that, because my name is Ejakpovi. And now I'm called Jeff. That's my robo name is Ejakpovi. And that was what I was known by at the time. So it's okay, this is what Ejakpovi has written to all girl for church. This is what Ejakpovi has written to all girl. So that man who hated me so much, it got to him that Ejakpovi has written a love letter to one girl in church. Okay, before I even get to that point, let me tell you what happened. While I was at home, right? And when I was writing the letter, my uncle, who taught me how to read at the time, saw me writing the letter and wanted to see what I was writing. But because I was writing a love letter, I didn't want to show him. So I took the letter and I ran with the letter. I ran. The guy pursued me. I went down the stairs. He was pursuing everything. I threw the letter down the stairs. He ran down the stairs to go and pick. I threw the letter from upstairs down. He ran down the stairs to go and pick up the letter. I'm saying, okay. I think he must have suspected something, but he felt that I was, practicing my writing skills and stuff like that. So he read the letter. So when he read the letter, he actually looked at the letter and corrected me. Some part where I wrote some things that were wrong, and said, okay, this is the way you write it. And I was quite impressed because he didn't even see anything wrong with the letter at the time. He didn't say anything wrong with it at the time. So, okay, he just corrected it and said, okay, this is good. This is the way you put it. This is the way. Because he was a role model to me at the time, and somebody who was very good. He had lost A's with, in English and all that. He was extremely meticulous and very, very. He was quite proficient when it comes to English. And very dedicated to studies. So so when he corrected everything, he didn't even say anything wrong with it. So I took everything, I wrote it, I took the corrections, and I completed everything. And then I wrote the letter and enveloped it, and I sent it to get to somebody to go and give it to her. Instead of me to look for the girl myself and give it to her, I went and gave it to somebody to go and give it to her. Okay, it got to her, and then what happened? Somebody took it and went to church and said I was chasing a girl in church through later. And that man who hated me, who was in charge of youths and in charge of choir at that time, because I was part of the choir too. I was 12 years old. I just loved I love singing. I just went to the choir and all that. He went to the guy and gave the letter to the person. And the man looked at the letter and said, "You're chasing a girl in church. You small boy, what do you know about woman?" Okay, they told my father. My father always said that was an embarrassment. You're writing a letter in church, everything. Instead of to call me, sit me down and say, "You're not supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to focus on your studies. I know how you feel at the moment, but this is not the way. For you to get a woman, you have to work hard. You educate a child." Instead, I was beaten at home, and I couldn't understand because I did not say anything erotic in that letter. It was just a love letter, expressing feelings that someone has. And I think as parents, we need to understand, instead of always trying to shout at your children and beat them for nothing, it's important that you educate them, because some of their feelings, they themselves cannot explain the feelings. So I went and they saw the letter. And what happened? They told my dad, and my dad saw the letter and then said, okay, they should do whatever they need to do. They should do whatever they want to do with me. So this is because if I was a rich man's child, this would not happen. Because the church usually respects children from rich backgrounds and undermine and bully, circumscribe children from poor backgrounds. And it happens a lot of time in churches. So, and I was part of the youth group at the time. I was just young boy, you just got into youth, just finished about 12 years old, young boy who just got into youth. This thing. I came to the youth one day, even though I knew that the church, they were investigating this matter. I didn't stop coming to church. I didn't stop going to church. I was actually part of church because I love God. I loved church. I love God so much. In fact, there was this guy I really wanted to be like. He was Apostle Moses. He was running the church called Victory Center. And I would go to the church when the guy used to sing a lot, and I loved him because he was very good looking and could sing a lot. And he would sing songs like Otiore Egba Eshu Sheyo Omoro Gene Vremudia Hallelujah Otiore Egba Eshu Sheyo Tomorrow again, Ephraim. You know, he was this kind of person who sang a lot, and I liked him. So I wanted to be like him. I wanted to be like a pastor like him. So whatever was happening, I was still dedicated to church, going to church. You know, he would sing songs like Okyare Gangano Nena, Ere Ofafo Etine, Ere Ofafo Etine, Okyare Gangano Ne, Ere Ofafo Etine. You know, he would sing those songs, and I wanted to be like him, so I would go to church. So on this day, this youth service, this youth program, meetings, I went to church, and right in the front of the entire youth of over 20 people, they said, Ijakobi, stand up. And I stood up. They said, you wrote a letter to someone, a love letter to a girl in this place. You know, because it was embarrassing, so I said, no, I'm not the one. My uncle was a secretary at the time. He was the secretary of the youth. So they told him to come and read this letter. Say, because he didn't know what was happening. But I had already known what was happening because my dad had told me, and I was told that he was being investigated. So I said, okay, doesn't matter, I'm going to be part of it. So so they said, get up. Do you know anything about this letter? Because everybody was there, I said, no, I don't know anything about this letter. I don't know what this letter is talking about. So it's okay, read the letter. They gave it to my uncle. My uncle who was the secretary at the time, and I told him to read the letter. So he read the letter. When he read the letter, he saw me that I denied the letter. I denied that this letter was not me. So I was hoping that he would at least back me on that day. But he's a Christian, so he doesn't want to tell lies in the presence of God. So he said, this letter is written by Ijakobi, because I had seen him writing this letter, and I actually read the letter. And in fact, he narrated everything, how I ran with the letter downstairs and everything, and threw the thing away, and he caught it, and actually did not see anything wrong with the letter at the time, because he even corrected some of the English that I was, doing at the time, and made it correct for me. And I took the letter and I went. So I was very disappointed that he did not back me. I just felt, okay, it's God. In the presence of God, you want to lie. But me, I lied because it's a result of shame. In the presence of people, I was embarrassed. I said, because of this, we're going to give you 24 strokes of the cane in the presence of everyone, which was so embarrassing for me. That made me start to think as a young boy at the time, that how could you treat somebody like this? In what way have I been sinful? In what way have I sinned unto God? In what way have I derailed? In what way have I become an abomination unto God? Would God treat me in this manner? You see, I was a child, for God's sake, a child that was just expressing love to another, which is natural. Yes, it might not be the right time. The approach at the time might have been wrong. But what do? You sit someone down, you sit the child down and educate. But rather, I was giving 12 strokes of the cane. I was crying in the presence of people in church, in the presence of the youths in church. That was very painful. And I got home. I said, my father gave them permission to do this. Not only was I being given a slap at home already, but I faced another form of humiliation in church. And this is where my approach to church began. This is how my critique around church began. From that young age, I began to ask myself, is this how God would have handled? You see, prior to me going to the bigger church, because I used to be in children's church before, I was the leader, and I worked with the children. We did children events and everything. I was the man in charge, and I orchestrated most of these things and empowered the children at the time. So somehow I was kind of popular. So even when we migrated to the bigger church, I was already popular and known. The best way to handle was to educate, was to treat somebody with love. It wasn't. This audio, if you want to listen to the full story, you have to come to my YouTube channel, because it's long, you know. So my YouTube channel is Jeff Okiri, so you can find me there on YouTube. I'm just starting up the YouTube channel. I've not been active on there. I want you to tell me if what I did was wrong, if the way I was treated was right, if God would have treated me with such a manner. And just think and get back. Embarrassed. I used to ask myself then if my parents were actually the ones that gave birth to me. You see, on this platform, I'm going to be telling you a bit of my experience in life. Some things just to pour out myself, and some of my experiences, some of the things I went through from a young age to adulthood and stuff like that. I'll be sharing some of these things on my channel. So tell me if the way I was treated was right. Go to the comment section and write and tell me if what happened was good.